Welcome, everyone. This is Araceli, Transition Wealth Advisor and Real Estate Investor in the US and Canada. And I just wanted to remind you to subscribe. Make sure that you subscribe to the channel and share with your friends if you find the subject interesting. In my chat with Colette, we're going to talk about something very interesting that a lot of people want to know. Colette, can you tell us what we're talking about and introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Colette Rabba, and I'm a residential real estate broker in the GTA. I like to work West End. And yes, please like, subscribe, send us some notes, send us questions that you have because we love your questions. And today's episode is about a question I just got from a friend's son who is thinking of buying a house with his friend/friends. So, as we know, Ontario real estate has gone through the roof, and a lot of people feel they can't afford it on their own, or because they're the first-time home buyers, they really don't want to go on it by themselves. Like they want that support. They're not married. They're young people. They want to have a little bit of growth with their. They want to invest in something. So why wait till you're married? Might as well get a couple friends together, or just one friend, or a sibling, or different family member, whatever it is, and get your feet wet in the market. So that's the best advice I can give anyone, because I always hear it, and you hear it too, right? Oh, I should have bought 5 years ago. I should have bought 10 years ago. Don't let another 10 years pass and you're going to be saying the same thing, right?
Exactly. So no matter what the price is right now, your property, if you buy something today, it will be more in the next 10 years. The most important thing is just do it. Just get in one way or another. And if you have the ability to pool your money with a friend, a sibling, or anybody that you think that you can get along with, that's so important, right? To make sure that you are going into the transaction and that the goals are the same. This could be for you, and then you have the ability to do it, right?
Yeah.
So what is the number one thing that we need to consider?
So we have 3 tips, and this is something that has to be done before you even set foot in one house. And that is to take your friend or friends, come together, have an appointment with a lawyer, and put together an agreement. So this is a separate agreement than a purchase and sale agreement. This is going to be your contract. Let's say if you want to buy it as a corporation, you could do that. But if you're all homeowners, you can buy it under something called tenants in common. So when you're a wife and husband or spouses, that is called a joint tenancy, which means, and it's a legal term, because what happens is if one of them passes away, the ownership in the house goes to the surviving person. Correct. And I know it's called tenant, but we're not talking about tenants. We're talking about ownership. It's just called joint tenants or tenants in common because you're all living together. So if you can remember, we're tenants in common. We have a common goal here is to buy a house together.
Correct.
So think about that. Yeah.
So just remember that there is 2 ways to buy a property. So
there's 3, but let's just say here is 2.
Well, not really, but I mean, in terms of legal, when you're actually signing a property, when it is a husband and wife, you have it as a joint tenancy. So if in case one of them passes away, the entire property and the entire half of your property will pass on to the next person. If you're doing it as a tenants in common, which is you're not related. I mean, not related as a spouse. You're not in a relationship, right?
Okay, hold on a second. I have to pause there because you can be married but still buy a house as tenants in common.
Absolutely. So absolutely.
It's only if one of the people passes away how that ownership continues on. So it's a little tricky and it's hard to wrap your head around, but a lawyer can explain that to you. And sorry, the third way you can buy a house is through a company, a corporation. So you don't even have to do that. So that's why I wanted to say there's a third way to buy, even as an individual. If you want to say, listen, let's just open a company and buy it through a company, then you can do it that way as well. But that's for first-time home buyers. We don't suggest it. It's not something that it's a little higher level. If you want to do an investment property, that's when you do a corporation. But that's not what we're talking about today.
Correct. That's what I wanted to keep it simple. So there's two ways right now. The third way, we're going to leave it for another day. So tenants in common is basically you have the ownership. And this is very important because if something happens to you, whatever has been accumulated into that property, if you buy it with two people, let's just keep it simple, right? It could be more people. But if it's half of the property that you kept for 2-3 years and it accumulated certain amount of equity, then that amount can be willed to anybody. If you are not married yet, could be to some.
It stays with your estate.
Yeah, estate, whatever your estate is, and if you have children, or if you're not married or don't have children, maybe your parents or anything, anybody that you want to leave it to. If you have joint tenancy, then you can't. It will pass on to the person.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So really, so step number one, find yourself a good real estate lawyer and talk to them about having and it's called a co-ownership agreement. So the co-ownership agreement has to be in place before you purchase the house. So you guys are all clear and you're all good, and then it gets fun and you can go and look at the houses and get excited about it and see, this is my room. And that's when you start getting really excited about the purchase. But until you have that agreement, and just like a marriage, guess what? Shit hits the fan sometimes, excuse my language. So you have to have that agreement to know how are disputes going to be resolved. So that's actually number 3. We're not in order here today because it's just one of those days. But let's just start with the bad stuff first. The bad thing is there's always going to be a dispute, no matter how wonderful and lovely everybody is with one another. I didn't agree to mow the lawn. I didn't agree to fix the light bulb, whatever it is. So it doesn't have to be super detailed, but just to know, how do we resolve? Do we need a third party to resolve something? How is that going to look? So that should be part of the agreement.
Correct. And basically, it's just the management, the task managements that are in the property. There is paying bills.
Right. So that's another thing.
If somebody's going to collect the rent, or you're going to put it into a common account. All of these has to be decided up front. What if somebody loses their job and they cannot make the mortgage payment or the utilities? What happens at that point? So do you have a contingency fund that you can dip into for the next 3 to 6 months? So you can have that in the case something happens to your job, or for whatever reason. Another thing is, you don't have to have a dispute. Maybe everything is going well, but something changes in your life, whether you are moving away, maybe you just finished school and you got a job, across the country. I don't know. Right. Or maybe you met somebody in those 2 years or 3 years and you want to get married. So it doesn't have to be a dispute per se, but you need to know how you're going to dissolve the partnership that you did for that property. Very, very important, because if that happens, then you can say, listen, you can buy me out. That is the one solution. The second one is selling the property.
Or you can have someone take over for you and rent, pay for your half. Let's say it's half and half here. And someone says, okay, listen, I can get a tenant in there. You have to approve that this person, that you can live with them and they're okay. And they will pay. I mean, I highly doubt you'll find a tenant to pay your half. Because it just doesn't work. The math won't work out unless you have like maybe 5 people all sharing the same property costs. So
somebody that takes over the payment, and then they will pay out your portion.
Yeah, it could be a rent to own situation. So there's a lot of things that need to go into this agreement. And the main thing that really what should be discussed right at the beginning is, what is the percentage? Are we going to be 50-50? Are we going to be 4 people and they're all going to be equal? Or does somebody not have as much money as you, let's say, and they can only buy, let's say, 40%. All these things have to be written out and spelled out very clearly, not just because it's for you and your peace of mind, but I know how many times has this happened where, oh, but I thought you said this. Oh, didn't
Mhm.
we agree on that? Oh, hold on a second. I might have a text. And you look and you scroll up and down and you can't find the text. That is unacceptable. Everything has to be in writing.
Yep.
So everybody's clear on not the smallest detail, but even if I decide to get out early, we made a commitment, a 5-year commitment, let's
Yep.
just say. Now, like you said, somebody wants to get married. Did we write in what happens if somebody gets married? You don't have to go into great detail, but you can even write something like, if one of us gets married,
Mhm.
we can discuss it. And these are the 3 points that could happen. So you don't even have to decide now what's going to happen, but just so you know, we will have 3 choices then at that point.
Yeah.
And to make that commitment to the other person, they don't want to have to make a decision in 3 years, 5 years. And the biggest thing with making a commitment, and this is the thing that people don't realize, you can't just go to the bank and get a mortgage and then, oh, I want to move and that's it, I'm done. I get out of the mortgage. The bank will ding you. You will have to pay something, a
Yep.
penalty to get out of that mortgage early. Who's responsible to pay for that penalty? Is it the person who wants to stay and has the commitment of 5 years, or should it be the responsibility of the person who wants to get out for the full amount?
Yeah. So
So
this is so important because this is about commitment, and it's just basically like getting married. And this is one of the advices that I give my clients, is that you need to get divorced before you get married. And the reason is because at that point you're really, in love, right? And you're
yeah,
really, in this case, you're so excited about getting that property, right? So
right.
you're at the height of your happiness. And at that time, you can agree, you actually can make a better decision on how to split. So what if it doesn't work? What if I don't like your music? What if, whatever, you're too loud, you're too quiet, whatever it is, I don't like you here anymore.
What if one person is usually the cleaner one and the other person is a little bit
That is
more
a huge,
messy. And
it's a,
that's the thing, exactly like a marriage, when you say, listen, these are the house rules. The house rules are, you wash your dishes immediately after you've cooked. I don't want to see dishes overnight. Like a simple rule like that. Please do
yeah,
your dishes that day. You might not be able to do them right away, but we have a dishwasher, throw them in the dishwasher. It's not a big deal. Things like that. Laundry, don't leave it in the washing machine. You have to have respect for one another, whether you're married or you're just living together. And everybody has their little quirks and everybody has their little, whatever. I listen to music when I'm taking a shower, crazy stuff like that. Like that has to be spoken about. And guess what? If you can live with that person as tenants before you buy a house, then all of this can kind of work out and you don't have to make a commitment of saying, oh, we're buying this property. Now we have all this heavy weight of having to make a commitment to this other person before. And I say the same thing about people getting married. Live together first. Don't get married. Live
well, this
together
is
first.
the thing, lifestyle choices is so important,
Yeah.
because it gets very annoying if you are a very clean person and
Yeah.
you get together with somebody that lives everything everywhere. You're not going to be able to do it. You're going to be annoyed, and this is on the long term. It's going to weigh on you, and you're not
Yeah.
going to be happy. And you want to make sure that this investment property, especially if you're taking a 5-year mortgage, um,
Yeah.
Colette actually mentioned something very important. If somebody wants to get out because they're not happy, you now have, penalties to pay to the bank for
Yeah.
closing your mortgage.
And
So,
it might not be an investment anymore. It might actually be detrimental. So you really have to, that partnership is so, like what we're saying, you might not hear it very often, but that partnership or that agreement, your co-ownership agreement is more important before you even start looking, because if that is a bone of contention with either of you, I mean, you have to be fair with how many people, and I know it's not easy, but if you really think about how do we get out before you get in,
Yep.
that will solve so many problems. Let's go back to that agreement. Let's go back and look, what did we write?
It's always here, right?
Yeah, and you can always add to it. You can always change things on it later. You don't need a lawyer for that, but the general, well, maybe you do need a lawyer for that, depending on what you're going to change. But really, the fundamental agreement should be done before you even start looking. So
Yeah.
just wanted to share that with you today. If you have any questions, if you're ready to buy with your friends or your, whatever, your not yet significant other, but you want to see what it's like. Honestly, Araceli and I are both here to give advice and to help you find that property and be financially successful in the
Yeah,
future.
I remember this is a great way to get in the market, and it is a creative way to get started. So
Yeah.
let me just summarize. So the first thing that you need to do is make sure that you have a co-ownership agreement, which it states what is the split and what is going to happen if something happens to you. The second thing is make sure that you have the tasks of the property distributed, or whatever it is. Some people, they like to do all the management, pay the bills. It's up to you how you want to divide it, but it's better if you write it down. You are responsible for this, you are responsible for that, and everything is going to be there. And the last is that also would be in your co-ownership agreement is
the what if.
What if
not
happens,
disputes necessarily.
Yeah. Well, it could be disputes, or if something changes in either case, depending on how many people are actually buying the property. And remember, the more people are involved, the more choices will happen, the more changes could occur. So that's
but also the more options. So it's always, you look at both sides of things to say, can we agree on something? How do we figure this out? What happens if that person kind of decides or loses their job or whatever it is? How, what's the next step? How do we do this? And don't wait till it happens, because emotions get in the way, and feelings and hurt feelings. And that's not a way to lose a friendship. We want to keep it going, and we want you to both be happy in the situation until you can hopefully buy a property on your own. And that is step number 2. So, think about that. Where do you want to go financially? Where do you want to go in your life when it comes to buying? This is a stepping stone that a lot of people can do. Absolutely. And we want to see you do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I hope this works out for you. And if you do have any questions, please make sure that you let us know, and we can add to some of the items that we discussed today, or we can just make a video on that specific thing. So thank you. Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Colette, for being here, and we'll see you next time.
Joining us. Yay! Bye for now.